But during the first 45 minutes of the NFR, we went from about 5,000 subscribers to 30,000 subscribers in a 45-minute period.
Hi, everybody. My guest today is David Guinan from the Cowboy Channel. So welcome, David, first. Explain us what you've done in your career until now, and maybe a bit also on what Cowboy Channel is for my international audience.
Well, first of all, Carlo, thank you so much for having me. My career has been strange. I won't go. There's been a lot of turns and a lot of different things that I've done. So I'll give you the short version. I've been involved in streaming media since 1995. I remember wrestling with companies like Vivo, The Real Player, and one of the things I've always wanted to do was get streaming media on basically an internet browser. And I would look at a television and think, you just plug it in. It works. Why is this so hard? I was at MTV for a bit, for 3 years, and I still remember wrestling, trying to use The Real Player as a design element and dealing with, 3 different browsers, 3 different platforms, different versions of those browsers. And it was chaos. And then, YouTube came around and made it easy for everybody. But I kind of belabor the point because it was never, ever this easy. It's always been an incredibly hard game to. So the Cowboy Channel, again, we were in northern Nigeria. I was with my wife, my 2-year-old. The political situation just became untenable. So we moved to Omaha to have our second child where she's from. And I met a guy named Patrick Gotch, who owns a rural media group, which is kind of hard to say sometimes. And he had just recently acquired the rights from the PRCA, which is the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association. I thought the Nigerian chapter of my life was the weird one. Never did I think that I was Nebraska, I would find the really strange chapter of my career. But it's been great. He asked me, said he didn't know much about digital, had these rights, and wanted to bring the rodeo to a new audience. And one of the things I quickly learned, and again, I'm from Philadelphia. I lived in New York for 20 years. I knew nothing about rodeo. It seemed like a guy bouncing on a horse or a cow. But like any sport, once you have the rules explained to you, it really opens up, and you can enjoy it the same way you can, in any sport. I was at a NASCAR event, and without the rules explained to you, it looks like a car driving in a circle. But once you understand what they are and what the stakes are, it becomes beautiful like any sport. So we just acquired the rights. We had 9 months to launch a service. And in less than 4 years, we've gone from 0 to 120,000 paying subscribers. And so we're, a real, in my opinion, a success story in the world of niche sport. I don't say that arrogantly because we've made every single conceivable possible mistake getting there. I was just telling a colleague that to hit this number, like I've literally cried, bled, and sweat. It's been not easy. But to I guess an international audience, rodeo is very, very unique. It started really in Mexico, and it started with the Old West, with people ranching and dealing with cattle, and it evolved into competitive disciplines based on that original heritage. And so there are 7 events, and each one at a rodeo is represented. Some are timed events, and some are called rough stock events, which is how long you can really stay on a 2,000-pound bull that does not like.
Here internationally, we know through Hollywood movies, right? So we have this idea. I think especially as you think of engaging, a direct-to-consumer audience with a streaming product, what you're just saying. So when are the events? How long are the events? Is there a league? Is there a tournament? How does it work? But that's crucial, I think, to know, to understand.
I'm so glad you asked that question. So before us, there were a few attempts at a streaming service. Like there was Flow had some rodeo event, but rodeo is incredibly disparate. You have the PRCA, which is the main sanctioning body, but there are thousands of rodeos across the country. And whether or not they are PRCA rodeos, requires rodeo committee buy-in. And before we came along, it was a sport, but it was also, in a weird way, kind of like a town fair. So people would go to a rodeo, enjoy the rodeo, watch the rodeo, but they might not follow the entire sport. For those who do, though, the main event is called the National Finals Rodeo. It's 10 days in Las Vegas. It's been happening for 50 years. Not always in Las Vegas, but for the last 30, it's been in Las Vegas, and it's massive. Rodeo is based on the amount of money. I mean, you win money at each rodeo, and the top 10 who earn the most money in each discipline are invited to Vegas. And there it is. It's very hard to describe without seeing it yourself. I mean, I was blown away. I'd never seen such a spectacle like that. It's not just a hotel in Vegas. It's pretty much all of Vegas gets taken over by Western culture. I mean, I was truly flabbergasted. I mean, the seats on secondary markets go for multiples of thousands of dollars. I mean, everybody's wearing a hat and boots. I mean, it is, again, bonkers for the uninitiated. I mean, I highly recommend going. It is insane. And one of the things that we've noticed after launching the channel is for a very, very small period of time, we're as big as any sport out there. During the first day of the NFR, we were the top number four on the App Store, Apple's App Store, for the highest grossing app. I mean, that's beating NFL, NHL, MLB during the hot stove. Again, for one day, but it's a very, very good day. But it just gives you the idea of how big a niche sport is when it's concentrated.
Yeah. And so the next question is obviously about what is your audience in terms of streaming, and maybe also the journey, if you can, from 0 to 120,000.
Well, that's
which is connected clearly.
It's a topic I've spoken about a lot, mostly from the technical aspects, because I would define the Cowboy Channel by success in spite of ourselves. I personally didn't anticipate the growth. We launched in 2020 during COVID, and we were one of the few sports out there that was hosting live events, which helped us. But during the first 45 minutes of the NFR, we went from about 5,000 subscribers to 30,000 subscribers in a 45-minute period, which really crashed our entitlement system. No one's ever prepared for how big we are during that time frame. Mm-hmm. And to me, what that speaks of is, before us, there were a few streaming services, but there were none out there that, in my opinion, and the way we built our service, was to give rodeo the sport, the respect that the sport deserves. And in order to do that, to quote Oscar Wilde, genius steals. So I looked at the MLB app, NASCAR, and just stole the best features from all of those, and to give our audience the respect that they deserve. And in that process, you learn a lot. We launched, and a lot of the Cowboys complained they couldn't find the live. To me, it was very obvious. You click on the Cowboy Channel icon and it's live, but I'm not the audience. They are. So we now have a live button front and center. If you click on the Cowboy Channel button, it's essentially the same thing, but we made it as easy as possible for the audience by collecting feedback. And one of the accidentally clever things we've done is we started a Facebook group years ago that we actually forgot about, truly forgot about, the unofficial Cowboy Channel. And it's taken on this life of its own, where people complain about us, like us, talk about different rodeos, but that's my that's my barometer for seeing how we're doing, for getting real-time feedback. So if anything ever breaks, if anything happens, if there's bad camera work, which does happen, but if there's usually because we're taking a live feed from 950 different locations, 950 performances a year, and sometimes the internet service is bad, and they'll blame us, and I'll see it on the unofficial Cowboy Channel page. I do recommend create a page that you sort of control, but you let go free, just as a barometer of how you're doing.
No, especially I have to say something I've learned in streaming is there are some issues that with all the technology that we have now, the tracking of things, you can discover yourself. But very often there could be local, regional network issue. It could be specific, like to the single device issue. If you have a way to collect this before it goes mainstream, it's the best way to, one, help your audience and help yourself. And very often, I was, to be honest, when during critical time, I was always at the time on Twitter, checking if any screenshot of something wrong. It's the same thing. So it's a very, even if you didn't realize the start, I think it's a super smart thing to have, absolutely.
Well, one of the other things we didn't realize, and again, when we grew faster than we could even conceive of, though my boss was like, why didn't you get to 100,000? I like his attitude. Every time we get a metric, he assumes we should be higher. And to me, that's fantastic. But we didn't have a cut. We had one person in customer service. And so when we crashed, we were obviously overwhelmed and quickly, realized we needed a customer service department. So that is now, we have live people answering phones. I mean, every email we answer, human beings. But a lot of the issues are really endemic to streaming in general. We'll get people that are saying the audio is out of sync, and it's usually their Roku device, but they always assume it's us. But because we have this service out there, we charge, money. We own it. We help them, restart their Roku rather than just say, hey, go to this page and fix it. You get a real human being. And I think when you're a niche sport, that relationship you foster with the audience is not just essential. It's critical. When we crashed the first time, 5,000 people we had to call back. We called them all, back personally. Wow. Really, truly. And you realize in that process that they have your back. The people that are so angry, once you just talk to them and listen, same on social media, they not only typically are understanding, they support you. And it's a way of fostering loyalty. And it's also, I think it's important to stand behind your own product. Really, just take that audience first approach, but have skin in the game. I'll do a customer service shift every month or so just to see what it's like, to see what the people on.
I think that on one end, and let me go to the second part. Because you have a niche audience, some things are easier for you. You may disagree, but it's one sport, vertical. You can really create. You're in the best position to create the best cowboy rodeo experience, because that's what you're doing in terms of discovery, in terms of consumption. You can create that experience. You don't have on your platform 15 other sports and entertainment, which is a nightmare.
We're not a library with a live stream. Agreed.
On the other hand, that unless you really treat them badly, the loyalty is there. The top of the funnel is not so wide, but on the other end, your audience is by definition limited. So you really need, retention becomes not that's a way to, increase lifetime value. It's the only game once you acquire people, because if you lose them, there are not so many to replace. But maybe, tell me if this little story I did is.
Oh my God, that's great. I'm so glad you asked this question, but I'm going to answer in reverse.
Okay.
Mind. But thank you for asking this question, because it's critical. So one of the things we did when we started is, I was looking at all the stats that, metrics that people say, how many people watch rodeo, and people were saying, it's in 30 million households. And I'm like, no way in hell 30 million people watch rodeo or like it. So I crunched down. We have, one guy who works here, that guy named Mark Swick, and he looks at our Nielsen numbers, and he has MRI data. And he showed me some really intriguing numbers that basically 1.2 million people watch a rodeo event a year, or will actually watch it televised. Or I think 2 million will attend one rodeo a year. And again, I'm probably getting the numbers wrong, but it was much smaller than I realized. So my gut was that our maximum number, that we could really achieve, was about 350, 400,000. And that was when pricing strategy becomes absolutely critical. So for me, it's not quite as much about retention as it is about acquisition and managing our pricing strategy, which affects our churn. We have a churn rate under 4%, and that's precisely because of the way we price. So we have two pricing models. One is a $9.99 per month, which is standard in a lot of sports, and that is for people that want to try it out, people that want people that are looking for a specific rodeo. The people I mentioned before that go to that one rodeo a year and maybe they couldn't see Cheyenne and they want to see it, but the big event like the Super Bowl of rodeo, the NFR, you can only watch if you have an annual subscription. We black it out on a monthly membership. So the funnel internally is you get a $9.99, you like rodeo, you upgrade to a $119 package, and the pricing for that is what's $9.99 times 12. It's $119. So it's not about discount, it's about access to all of the extra features, but the main one is you get access to this giant rodeo that everybody wants to watch. And because of that, what I see is less churn, but more churn from monthlies and conversions into annuals. And that's essential. So our pricing strategy keeps our churn rate low, and we then invest in performance marketing, and also we have a strong editorial and social team to attract new members. But what keeps me up at night is, when have we peaked? We're at 120,000 right now, and at a certain point, I'm watching my cost per acquisition, and it's still relatively low because I have very, very good performance marketers that are incredible. But once that becomes half of what my lifetime value is, then I realize I have to pivot and then start doing a new tactic of growing the audience and creating avidity. And thank God I'm not there yet, because that's a whole new set of challenges.
Yeah. And in terms of data and analytics, I obviously, you already mentioned a few things, so it's crucially important. But how do you manage and have a vision on the data analytics part?
Ultimately, what I care about is who's watching what, where they're from, and how many new subscribers I have, and in what category, and retention rates. I think people can get way bogged down in analytics when they're really a handful of metrics that I personally care about. We don't have a marketing department. We're a team of 9 people. That's including my streaming engineers. That's including my editorial team. We're tiny. We don't have a graphic designer. So ultimately, if I had access to every analytic tool out there, it would, in a weird way, be a waste. For me, the ideal solution would be, basically a data warehouse that sits below a GPT, so I could just ask it questions. But no one's invented that yet. So please.
No, yeah, you won't have to wait a lot, I guess.
And absolutely. There's a very key metric which is audience. And the reason I want consumption data is we have 40,000 people that don't watch at all. They don't watch, and they just auto renew. And at risk of sounding cynical, but I will, this industry is built on people forgetting they have memberships. It really is.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that people call that their best customers, those who forget they have a subscription. In our case, it's usually people they forget they have one until the NFR, in which they are frantically making sure they have one. But being able to silo those customers that are inactive from marketing, from communication is also kind of essential. So that's a big one.
Well, one thing that I had a very long strategic discussion in some streaming project about exactly that. So normally there is a correlation between time watched and retain and the fact that you want to churn or not.
Yeah.
We notice it more, I think, if you have a constant decision moment where should I pay or shouldn't I pay, it counts a lot. If you really haven't watched it, normally with a seasonal subscription, it's less. It's more it's part of who you are having in this case, Cowboy Channel subscription. It's part of who you are. You will watch some, but it's not like if you're watching 50% of last month or 200% of last month, it doesn't mean in that case you may churn. It's a bit more sophisticated. So I think there's a lot of psychology in this, I guess, but this is more or less what I think you observe too.
So much. I mean, you have to understand the audience. Also, I'm glad you brought up seasonality because we have a very, very long season. I mean, it starts in January. It ends October 1st, the last day of September, and then you have the big event in December. So there's really no downtime, and that's a big
good thing
for us. So
yeah,
we do see churn, but again, mostly with monthlies that want to, check out a rodeo or hear something about it. And my metric for really how well we're doing as a channel, like the content we're producing, is how long I retain monthlies for. And sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's not, but I can gauge the stickiness by looking at monthly subscribers and see how much they watch. And when I do see that fall off, to me, it means we need things like digital-only exclusives. And one of the
marketable features I use.
Absolutely. I mean, like our goal this year is to make the Cowboy Channel like an Amex Platinum card, where you get bonuses and membership to create a sense of inclusion.
It's fascinating. So, what do you think where are you going from here? What's your next? Now I don't want to say 12 months because what's the road until November for you this year?
Panic. Again, we crash a lot. I mean, our tech stack is fragile because no one quite understands how big we are until that one moment, and we've suffered from 1, 2, 3 crashes. And last year we got clever enough to finally put in place a system where we're able to fail open, which is given to everybody for free. So right now we're in a kind of a pivotal mode of really analyzing our tech stack, consolidating it, owning our own data, but stability is number one. There are problems that are inherent in rodeo that are things that we simply can't do. I want real-time data in there. I want, like really good fantasy. I mean, I like real-time analytics. I mean, I'm a baseball junkie, but rodeo, you have the rodeo secretary, which is typically somebody who's in their 70s, who with I'm not joking, a pencil will write the scores down and then I'm really for real faxes it in.
Yeah.
Authenticated. But we're working around that. We're want to build in features like being able to condense a rodeo.
Yeah.
So you can watch it in a few minutes. We're exploring putting some sub-premium content on other people's fast channels with explainer videos, like how to watch rodeo, how to enjoy the sport, to start fostering avidity. I really want the idea of being able to follow a specific athlete. One of the things that actually I'll shout out to Charlie Beal at IMG Endeavor showed me ESPN's cricket database. And it was, if you're into cricket, you could get lost in these numbers. And to be able to put statistics, historical rides, and consolidate a database of rides, players, and stats that's just available so people can kind of create their own journey and really go as deep as they want into the sport. But again, we have a staff of 9 people. So the real answer is make sure we don't screw up and grow. I mean, that's the real answer.
So yeah, but in terms of for the product people in the audience, there is a rich pipeline for the product roadmap, right? Correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I've met with, I remember there's a lot of AI clipping tools that are coming online, like Magnify, that I'm incredibly excited about potentially working with, because, you know, I have 3 people. They spend their time clipping every rodeo. If that could be automated, that allows me to do things like take them and put one on Facebook, one on TikTok, one on, I mean, just to get, you know, God forbid we should be on Reddit. It allows me to, like, anytime you have a human being that's doing a that's doing a repetitive task that can be replaced by a computer, I view it as a good thing, because it gives us the option. It frees up our time to innovate, especially when we have a minuscule, tiny staff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a super interesting story. And by the way, we'll meet again in 2 weeks, a bit more than 2 weeks, in Las Vegas at NAB.
I'm excited.
And, we can expand on that and talk about a lot of other more generic subjects. So happy to have you on Retention Zone. And it's a true story. So this is the flesh and blood of streaming, right?
I mean, literally blood. And sweat and tears. Thank you so much. It was an honor.
Thank you, David. Bye-bye.
See you in Las Vegas. Bye.